Welcome home. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. Wishing all of you a happy holiday out there. We're getting out, eating some crab cakes, and I'm going to feast on 7 fishes at Deep Pasquale's. I'm going to have some delicious Asian food at Honey's and Alethorpe on Friday, and I'm going to give away the rest of my Ravens scratch offs in the Maryland Lottery. Also, our friends at GBMC keeping me healthy and on the road throughout all of this will be at Costas next Thursday in Dundalk. That's going to be a jam-packed event. Certainly a little tribute to our friend Woody, who passed away. He was one of my music buddies at Ravens games, and so many people knew of him. But he would always ask me before Ravens games, "You want to hear Led Zeppelin? You want to hear Rush? Come on, pick a song. I'm going to play a song for you up at 5:13." So he would always do that. So my thoughts and my strength to everybody out there that loved him. We will pay some tribute to him. And also to my dear friend Ed Lauer, who's very much alive and also knew Woody. He said Woody used to play Prince songs for him at Orioles games. So I see. I thought I was the only one that got the request in, but apparently he took music requests from everybody. So and so many ties. So next week at Costas, because I know Woody ate at Costas as well. So on Friday of next week. We're going to be at Gertrude's with John Shields and Dan Roderick. And then on Monday, the 22nd, before the holiday, and more importantly, before January 1st, they found Luke. I told the Planet Fitness people doing the show with April at Planet Fitness in Timonium. We're going to bring the Costas crab cake over across the street. It's literally across the street in Timonium. And, I told her we're coming in and we're doing this thing. I said, look, man, I'm in there Christmas week. I always watch New Year's Eve, and you have all that Planet Fitness party hats, say 2026, all that. So what we're going to do on the 22nd is they're going to bring all the party hats and stuff in, and I'm going to get to celebrate New Year's Eve before even Christmas Eve. But I get my kicks in different ways. Some of us labor at Fadley's over crab cakes in the middle of the Orioles signing Pete Alonso, and some of us making $50 million a year just take Wednesday off, dude. Huh?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that you to throw it to me with that, but yeah, I mean, another Wednesday, Lamar Jackson missing another Wednesday practice. So
I mean, it's okay with me if they win, but he's missed a few Wednesdays and haven't won too. So, and I've had to say
yeah,
he doesn't look sharp. He doesn't look like they practice. So, I have talked about them in that way, and I don't need to sugarcoat anything. They're 6-7 and they're playing for their lives. So, whatever they think is best on Sunday is probably the best thing to do, right?
yeah, and look, I mean, we also know that it's week 15, right? I mean, everyone is banged up at this point in time. Everyone could be listed on the injury report at this point in the season when you're a couple weeks away from Christmas. But yeah, I mean, the difference this week, Lamar not officially listed with anything. And look, we know how this had kind of worked the last few weeks. I mean, whether it was the, you know, ankle, knee, toe, ankle again, whatever it is. I mean, he's been banged up. And is there one specific injury that's been really dogging him, right? I mean, we know the hamstring cost him 3 games earlier this year, but we've also acknowledged, while not necessarily putting it all together in terms of performance, he has looked better physically the last 2 games. I thought he played better against Pittsburgh, especially in the second half, than he did against Cincinnati. But yeah, we're still not seeing an operation. And it's funny. I want to bring something up to you, and I'm all. This will be an unnamed reporter in the Ravens media that I was talking with, but we talked about it. I wrote about it and included it in my 12 Ravens thoughts at BaltimorePositive.com. One of the uglier elements of what we saw on Sunday, beyond the fact that the calls on the officiating or what have you, is just how bad, ugly. I'll say it, embarrassing that 2-minute drill was at the end of the game. I mean, awful. And the shame of it was they still found a way to get to the 30-yard line, right? And they ran out of time. Lamar gets sacked, the game ends. But it's funny because I had the same thought as talking with another reporter who also had this thought. And we don't sit particularly close in the press box either. But watching that 2-minute drill, and I'm not even saying like it was Lamar's fault. I mean, there was, it was slow. Zay Flowers, had to run across, was lined up on the wrong side of the field, whether that was a Zay thing, but whoever. Monken, like I'm not blaming an individual, but this individual that in the media that I was talking to about this on Wednesday had the same thought I did watching that in real time, where I'm like, feels like they haven't practiced their 2-minute drill. And when your quarterback's missing a practice every week. And now that's not to say that they haven't necessarily practiced that on Thursday or Friday, but that was a symptom of that problem, right? Where you said it. I mean, it's one thing to talk about vet days and guys missing practice and they show up and they play great on Sunday. And look, John Harbaugh was asked about it earlier this week, and there are trade-offs. On the one hand, Lamar has looked a little bit better physically the last couple weeks. So are the days off from practice helping him in that way that he's feeling better on Sunday? But then the drawback is, are you not as sharp as a unit? Not even just Lamar individually. Like I said, that 2-minute drive, I'm not even saying that like that was Lamar's fault 100% or anything like that. But because you're not getting as much on field time as an entire unit, does that hurt you and does that show up in that specific instance? Or did they practice that plenty on Friday of last week and they just, for whatever reason, it didn't work out? Point is, you kind of look at it and say, I mean, at this point, it's do or die, right? I mean, it's all
They look
hands on
kind of
deck.
unprepared,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, that looked bad. Like I, I'll flat out say it. I've seen high school offenses run a better 2-minute drive than what that was. They and I wrote this, so
From a
I'll
play
stand.
efficiency standpoint
Yeah,
versus time, it's embarrassing
the
on a
first
stat
few
sheet.
plays.
Yeah.
Yeah. So remember, they get the ball back. There's a holding penalty on the punt, so they're moved back. Voorhees commits holding on the first play. So it's 1st and 20. From the time they snapped it on 1st and 20 until they snapped it on 3rd down, 2 plays later, 56 seconds came off the clock. You might as well have huddled up. That's how slow it was. That you just had no efficiency in terms of getting the play off. I mean, at that point, they had moved, 10 yards or whatever it was. I mean, it was just awful, Nestor. And that's why the frustrating part is they finally got it going and they had a chance, like they were within striking distance, but they ran out of time because they wasted so much time at the beginning of it. So, but to go back to the larger point at work here, where you just, what's the trade-off? You're trying to have your franchise quarterback be as healthy as possible, but we also know that the offense collectively just has not looked sharp for a very long time. And now you're going on the road. Now you're in a position where, I mean, they have to win this game. They have to win this game. If there's any, because if you don't beat the Bengals, why in the world am I going to think you have any shot against the Patriots on Sunday Night Football now? And then, as we've since found out also, they're going to Green Bay for the Saturday night game. So they're going to have a short week situation there. And I mean,
They could really fail unbelievably
on a
miserably
national stage
and flame out in front of the whole world. And that's
Yeah.
how Harbaugh gets his ass fired.
And that's not even counting the scenario that, let's face it, I don't feel great about this team. I've said that. Like, I'm not going to belabor that. I don't think anyone feels great. Even if you're someone that's not saying the season's over, you're not feeling good about it. How can you feel good about this football team right now? You just can't. All you can say about it is they still have a chance. They still have a path. And Pittsburgh's not that good either. So you can keep saying that.
But the thing you and I would
But-
keep saying is they have good football players, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm 13 weeks into this. I'm not sure Marlon Humphrey's a good football player anymore. I'm not sure that Ronnie Stanley's a plus football player anymore. I know the guards aren't. So, and I don't know where Lamar is when it's gimpy Lamar, not real Lamar, because it's not real Lamar. So,
I think I would say they still have plenty of good football players. Do they have a good football team? No. And we're 14 weeks into this.
Well, when that happens, you are talking about the coaching.
I mean, it's part of it, right? I mean, I'm not going to say it's all John Harbaugh. I'm not going to say it's all Zach Gore. I'm not going to say it's all Todd Monken and go down the list of the position coaches. On the flip side, I'm not going to say it's all the players.
But they're not getting the most out of their talent.
But it's everyone's fault. Like, I'm disappointed in the entire thing. Like, I said this to you in the aftermath of Sunday afternoon's game. It just feels so painfully mediocre. And we've talked about this. What do they do well? Okay, statistically, they still have a darn good running game. But we also know the eyeball test pokes holes in that in terms of how maddening it's been in terms of how inconsistent it is, right? And success rate is, they're 23rd or in success rate, which that kind of shows up in terms of situationally how up and down they are
And
in that
red
way.
zone. And red
Yeah.
zone.
Well, red zone's not inconsistent. Their red zone offense stinks. I mean, it stinks. I mean, when you
But not
consider
being able to run the ball down there, too.
Oh yeah. Sorry, you just got me because
No, I mean, you take off on all you want. Yeah, yes, it does stink, but it's also indicative of their running game being in quicksand.
No question. I mean, whether we're talking goal to go or just when you get in the red area, the idea of that failing you the way it has. But it's fascinating to look at this and say, okay, you're going to Cincinnati, you're playing a team that 2 weeks ago embarrassed you on Thanksgiving night. That said, the Bengals are coming off of a loss that really put their playoff hopes in extremely unlikely, dire kind of straits. But it's Joe Burrow's first home game since coming back.
They stay alive if they beat the Ravens in kind of a nice way. If setting up for the Steelers to lose and the Ravens to lose, for them to play each other at the end, and maybe the Ravens could beat the Steelers and help them. And I talked to Dan Hort about that this week, who's the voice of the Bengals. You can check it out at Baltimore Positive. I mean, yeah, he had great observations on all of it, and he's a Buffalo guy, like grew up in Buffalo, so he was up there in the snow for the game the other day and whatever. I mean, the Bengals are one goofy play away from winning that game, literally one miracle play. And, it's not hard. I'll take the Ravens side on this, and I swear to you, Luke, after doing 4 hours of radio with you on Monday morning, I almost, and I'm busy with AI, and I'm doing all these shows this week and crab cake tours, and I've had friends die and just weird stuff going on this week. But I was going to call you on Tuesday and say, let's do a segment, you and I, on just the 3 plays that were the referee plays. The play that the goal line play or the field goal play that they clearly got wrong.
That was the word. Well, and the league even acknowledged as
much.
I mean,
right. Aaron Rodgers, whether it's you and I could do 8 minutes on that play, and then we probably do 15 minutes on the likely play. Yeah. And then you think about likely at the end zone and the Zay Flowers push 2 weeks ago, that ifs and buts and candies and nuts. It's not like they got freight trained, but they did lose by 3 touchdowns on Thanksgiving. So, I can't, I don't have purple goggles anymore. That Chad Steele stole them. I see it clearly, but I also don't think these guys suck and don't think that somehow they can't win in Cincinnati, even convincingly in some way because of their defense, or they pick Burrow off, or Burrow gets hurt, or I don't know, Burrow gets diarrhea in the middle.
I mean, it's
the
NFL, sure.
Right. Yeah. Whatever. And beating New England here, okay, it's a gut check, and that would put them back on the map because they would have beaten a really good team, right? And then they go to Green Bay, and some miracle happens, and it snows, and somehow they squat on the ball. And I could see them getting luckier than they've been. I don't want to give it the luck one way or another, but they've been unlucky in a lot of ways on officiating, on close plays and things like that. They've also been bad. They haven't run the ball. They haven't converted. I'll say all of that, but from it turning around and then winning 2 in a row here, I wouldn't bet against it. I mean, they're a 2.5-point favorite on the road. I don't know what the thing would look like with the New England, but you've lost all faith. I'm not as far gone as you. You've been nastier about them the last 2 weeks than I have, and because I still have a Derrick Henry jersey in my closet, but I think at some point likely he'll pull the ball in, and Zay won't get the call, and the ball will bounce a different way, and they won't turn the ball over 5 times this time. And I'm not picking them. I'm still early in the week, and I want to see Lamar. I'm like Clem Florio when he used to get the binoculars out at Pimlico. He'd be like, "Oh, I want to see him move. I want to see how he's moving." Before I would bet on it, but I don't know. What's the line that Berman would always use? Circle the wagons. The Bills circle the wagons. This is circle the wagons-ish here. It really is. This is And we haven't had a lot of usually our circle the wagons are, hey, they're playing Buffalo, they're playing the Chargers. It's week 2 of the playoffs. It's January. That's when you feel the nerves of it. And they might get eliminated here. And this has gone the wrong way. I feel like they're as close to winning the division as they are to getting eliminated. And that's bizarre, man.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely. I just I'm tired of waiting for it. You know what I mean? Like I look,
Luke
I
Jones has become the cynic here, everybody. He's bought it. You're too
okay,
negative. Why are you
okay.
so late? I got to come up with a nickname for you.
The
Combined
cynic.
with the
Guess
Luke.
how many games I picked them to lose all year?
Uh, three, two, two,
Two.
two. You don't pick
Now,
against them much, yeah.
now one of them was that Bear, just the weirdness of the
Yeah.
Bears with Lamar, and then Kyle Hamilton and Stanley ended up not playing
Yeah, so
that
they
game.
you've picked
I
them to win 6 times that they've
I would
lost
have
this year.
I would have revised that. It like I make my picks Saturday. I put it out my 12 Ravens thoughts with my predictions Saturday mornings. If I had revised that Sunday, I would have picked the not the, yeah. No, wait, what? No, not the Bears. Sorry. I'm getting the Bears and the Texans game confused. The Texans game, if I had known Hamilton and Stanley were not going to play, I would have picked the Texans because we knew Lamar was out. I thought they had a chance to do what they did against the Bears against the Texans if they had Hamilton and Stanley, and they didn't that day, and they got embarrassed, as we know. So I just look. I'm not going to sit here. This isn't me sitting here saying they have no chance to win any of these games. But at the same time, like, what would we put their chances are for each of these games? I at best it kind of feels like a coin flip every week, and then so like you're asking me,
Be a hell of a parlay bet.
are they is the coin going to keep landing on heads like 3 or 4 weeks in a row? And
I feel like they've gotten squeezed pretty good the last 2 weeks by the zebras and just by bad fortune in a general sense. It hasn't been things like um dumb, first down, jump on the line of scrimmage, put you in 1st and 20, so you got a punt. Stupid stuff that was knocking them out last year. These are ticky tack penalties and weird strip plays and like just. I mean, those are 4-5 if you count 4 points on the field goal. Those were huge plays. They were
sure,
touchdown plays, man. They
sure,
were
but isn't that the league though?
32 points in plays. It's
But that
crazy.
but that's the league though. You know what I mean? Like I I don't see it with this team. I just don't at this point. I think they're a really mediocre football team that is probably going to continue to be mediocre. And look, to be clear, that formula still could land them in the playoffs because to your point now, it's not impossible. I'm not going to sit here and say that they can't win in Cincinnati. That'd be dumb to say that. I'm also not going to sit here and puff out my chest and say, "Oh, the Ravens are coming to town." Well, what has that meant all year? I mean, even when they've won, they've rarely done it in impressive fashion all
And Joe
season.
Burrow's looked a lot better than
Yeah,
Lamar has the last two
sure.
weeks, and the
Well,
whole
and
operation has looked
that's
better.
part of it too. I mean,
They're motivated there.
I
They
w-
don't
I
want to
was
lose.
I was I was really starting to buy what this defense was putting down over the course of the 5 game winning streak, and the pass rush looking better. Look, just the defense being a cleaner operation. And we saw what happened these last 2 games where they step up in weight class in terms of the opposing quarterback. I mean, they made Aaron Rodgers look like Green Bay Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers had looked terrible in recent weeks. Burrow, look, Burrow's a great quarterback. I'm not, yeah, and it wasn't even the defense, like they let down in the third quarter and gave up the 2 touchdowns on third down plays, which was part great play by Cincinnati, but also not great from the Ravens. But I come back to, we keep waiting for like some version of the Ravens that we all envisioned they were going to be, whether you were picking them to win the Super Bowl or whether it was we'll see in the divisional round, which is where I stood, right? I mean, I didn't pick them to win the Super Bowl this year, but it was kind of my default was I expect them to be playing in the divisional round, and we'll see it's against Buffalo or Kansas City, or do they find a way to avoid one of them? And I think part of what hurts about this is, the Chiefs are very likely not going to be in the playoffs, and you're sitting here at 6-7. It's looking like Buffalo's the team that has the chance. I mean, it feels like maybe they're starting to rise up the last couple weeks. I mean, we'll see. I mean, who knows? But I just I don't believe in this football team at this point. And look, doesn't mean that they're not going to be back next year or any of that. Doesn't mean they can't win the division at 9-8. But like I just I'm off the bandwagon, right?
Ooh.
I mean that's just what I'm saying. Like that's just how I feel. Like I'm picking Cincinnati to
I
win
put the
Sunday.
baseball stadium behind me on Zoom just for Pete Alonso. So,
Uh, you
Are
know,
you saying it's baseball season here?
I mean it's not yet, but I just
I have a feeling you're going to have to drive up through Somerset and
I'm not going to be
Breezewood.
surprised by that.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to go to Pittsburgh, and I think that's going to be a meaningful game, maybe for
Probably on
Cincinnati if they win
probably
a
on
couple of games, right? I
probably on
mean,
Sunday Night Football then. I mean, so
yeah, this is just really like I've condensed my schedule and fixed my schedule because of the flex game in Green Bay and where Pittsburgh would be. I moved the Pittsburgh game to 8 o'clock on that last week, thinking like that's going to be the game. It's going to be
yeah,
the prime time game on that Sunday night because I think it'll be a play-in game.
yeah.
I don't think. I mean, it's almost going to have to be, right? In one way or another, unless somebody really falls apart.
Yeah.
And I think last week we were all thinking the Steelers were the team that was going to fall apart. I don't think they're going to lose to Miami. I don't think they're going to lose to the Browns. I don't. I think they'll
Although,
beat those teams. I think they stand a far better chance of beating those teams than how I feel about the Ravens beating New England or Green Bay. And based
yeah.
on the things you've said, you probably feel the same way.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, if you kind of look at it, I will say this: Miami quietly is playing much better football and has been for a while. So I think that's interesting.
Fire
But
your general manager, you get better. New.
yeah, right. I mean, crazy, right? So I mean, it kind of feels like McDaniel's saving his job at this point in time. So which is interesting. I certainly wouldn't have called that 2 months ago. But I mean, that's where like they have to win Sunday. I mean, like I'm ready to write their obituary if they lose Sunday. Because like especially Pittsburgh wins Monday night, then you're talking about being two back with three to play.
Need a lot of
And
help,
you're
including
talking
helping
about
yourself.
facing the Patriots. Okay, it's home. They've been terrible they're 3-5 at home this year. And then you're going to go to Green Bay where Jordan Love has played at a high level. I mean,
And ain't gonna flex you out of that game.
well, no, no, not now. I
No,
mean,
right. I'm
that's
saying you're
Saturday
going to
night.
Green
Yeah.
Bay. It's going to be
Oh,
cold
it's
as
going to be.
balls, and
We're going to
you're
be
going to be
front and
playing
center.
for your life, and they're going to be playing for first place for them too. I mean, they need to win.
Yeah.
They want a home game. They don't want to go to Chicago.
Yeah, but I just look at this and they have not played well against good quarterbacks this year. They just haven't. I mean, who's the best quarterback they've beaten all year? Caleb Williams and I mean Joe Flacco in Cleveland
I
this
saw
year was
Rodgers coming up to the line of scrimmage and reading everything they were doing, and that's
yeah,
why he was having some success.
yeah.
Burrow saw him 2 weeks ago. They better get multiple this week because
But that's
Burrow
where
already studied him once. Burrow had 10 days to study for him and didn't even have to play 3 days before. Uh, Dude, I got such a crush on him, right? Just in a general,
oh,
like,
he's a heck of a quarterback.
great
Yeah.
quarterback, and I fear
I wish
him.
they could keep him healthy. That's the
Yeah, I
problem,
fear him
right?
on. Well, if he kept him healthy, the Ravens would be in deep doo doo because the Ravens aren't as good as them right now, and Lamar's not as good as he is right now, and that's on a body of work, and that's on an aging tire on Lamar, where I'm like, the minute Lamar can't run away from people, they're not going to like the $70 million they're spending on him. I mean, there's not. And I think this is indicative of that. And I think there's also part of when you spend $70 million on him, what's going to be around him and how that's going to blossom out. Boys, gonna be a lot of questions if this thing hits the side of the road. If this thing crashes in Cincinnati and 4:30, you and I are looking at a 6-8 football team.
That's
Wow,
circling the drain
yowza,
at that point. I mean,
yowza, yowza.
they're not down the drain, but they're circling the drain at that point. So, I mean,
That's no fun. I mean, we haven't
no,
had a season where like the season ends before Christmas in some sort of weird
well,
way, and then they're going to go get whacked in front of national audiences the next couple of weeks too.
that's where you kind of look at this thing. I mean, we're going to find out. Like these next few weeks, I think are going to say a lot about John Harbaugh and what
Nobody's going
may.
to say I piled on John Harbaugh because I've already piled on John Harbaugh. So
But I'm just saying,
like
like
literally.
this is going to say a lot about what may or may not be left in his tenure as Ravens coach. It says a lot about the core, the core of players on either side of the ball. It's one thing and look, they do deserve credit for getting digging themselves out of 1-5. There's no doubt about that. I'm not going to completely just gloss over that. Yeah, sure. The post bye schedule was favorable. There's no doubt about that. But we also see teams lose games every week in the NFL where you scratch your head and say, how did you lose that
Hey, they
game?
won those games, and
So
I said you win 5
so
in a
they did
row.
that.
You win. That's hard to do. Really
That's
hard to do.
that being said, it's a little bit different now where like you're the lights at the end of the tunnel now, or the train's coming
Well,
towards
you
you at
read
the end
the
of the
indicator
tunnel.
light a little different when they won
Yeah,
5 in a row. We all did,
sure,
right?
sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
but you look at it now, and now it's where it truly, when it's 1-5, you still can say to yourself there are 11 games left. When you're 6-7, you've got 4 left, right? I mean, like, and you're down a game in the division, and you have no shot at a wild card with the way that all lays out. So you're looking at this thing, and you're obviously all eyes are on Cincinnati, but these guys aren't dumb. They know that the next 3 games after that are going to be really, really challenging
Well, it would be
too.
one thing to say they lost the game because of 5 turnovers, and that's why Burrow and those guys ate the turkey, right?
Yeah.
Orlando Brown, all those guys, right? I they were outplayed, and the likely play and the Zay Flowers push was talking points, or were talking points in the aftermath of an 18-point loss. But what do you feel could be different about this game, just in a general matchup sense, other than going back 10 days ago and talking about turnovers? And
Yeah.
some of them bad, some of them unlucky, some of them weird, but Lamar giving the ball away, just like
Yeah.
things that happened that were maybe even indicative of him playing a second game in 4 days and being injured, right?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, if you're going to turn the ball over 5 times, like you'll probably lose by 5 touchdowns then if you turn it over 5 times again. So, I mean, that's the non-starter part of it. Like you obviously have to take better care of the football. And I think, look, I mean, it's not as though they moved the ball all that extraordinarily well. I mean, they piled up yards, sure, and like, okay, you can look at the likely play, you can look at the Zay play, but it's not like they were on their way to hanging 50 on the Bengals, despite the fact that the Bengals have had one of these worst statistical defenses of the last 3 or 4 decades, as our friend Aaron Schatz has talked about it in terms of DVOA. They have been better over the last few weeks. Although certainly in Buffalo, I mean, you kind of look at that and say, okay, it's not like they shut down the Bills by any means, but that's where I look at this thing. Look, I don't think their defense is going to shut down Joe Burrow, because I don't think their defense is good enough to completely stop good quarterbacks. They don't have a good enough pass rush. And when you don't have a good enough pass rush, I don't care how good your guys are on the back end, you're going to give up some plays. Now, I will point out T. Higgins is back in the concussion protocol. He was limited at the start of the practice week, but man, that would be a tough sell to me as a football team and as a league if he came back, played in a game, and then was twice checked for concussions, passed, went back into the game, and then reported symptoms after the game to let him play 6 days later. So I'm going to work under the assumption until we see and hear otherwise that T. Higgins isn't out there. But T. Higgins didn't play on Thanksgiving night, so they still have Jamar Chase. They still have Yoshibash, who caught a touchdown. They still have, Tanner Hudson made the really nice catch for the touchdown. I mean, they have weapons, and I mean, obviously they have, Chase Brown out of the backfield, who is very active. So yes, they need to be better defensively, but for me, if I'm going to feel good about this team, their chances to win on Sunday, man, their offense needs to be way better. And it's more than just, don't turn the ball over. Like, how about play like the offense we thought that they could be?
Crisp, moving to the sticks,
the group they were
finishing drives, like all of those things,
and
right?
they just haven't been that. I mean,
at all. That's since the first half of Buffalo.
Since the first 3.5 quarters of the Buffalo game. And that's where you ask me why I'm so down on them. And I just
you've watched them play.
Just haven't seen it.
Yeah,
I mean,
right. Yeah.
I just think they're a really, really mediocre football team. And sometimes it's just how it is. Like, look, I'm the dummy who 6 weeks ago was telling you that this is the best Kansas City has looked in a few years when you talk about their offense. And we see what's happened to them since then. So that's not to say that I'm right here, or that they're not going to turn it on, but man, I mean, I feel like waiting for the Ravens to turn it on is like waiting for Santa Claus to come down my chimney, you know? Like, I mean, we'll see. Okay. I mean, that's just where we are right now. I'm just not a big believer in this football team at all at this point in time. And I I question whether they're going to get off the mat this time. I really do. Um, if they go to Cincinnati and win an AFC North road game after they just dropped AFC North home games back to back, then good. I'll feel a little bit better. I'll give them a chance against New England then, right? So if they don't, then
Well, they're
and
two and
this
a half point favorite to win, so somebody thinks they're winning this week.
Vegas has loved them all year. I mean, I I joke with someone the other day. Vegas is going to have the Ravens as a favorite in the Super Bowl as they're watching from their couch. I mean, like that's just. I mean, Vegas has just been all in on the Ravens all year. So and look, Cincinnati's Cincinnati's not a good team. I mean, they're 4-9, right? I mean, I'm not. This isn't about me thinking that the Bengals are awesome or anything like that. This is solely about my just loss of belief in this football team at this point in time. I'm just for them, and we didn't talk about these elements as nearly as much coming out of Sunday's game. They had extra rest. They were playing at home again. They had the Super Bowl 35 team coming in. We did talk about that. They had extra time to prepare, go down the list. All the things that would tell you they should be ready to take it to the Steelers. Not that they have to blow them out by any means, because we know how this rivalry works. But
And the Steelers stunk the week before, and the ball went over their head
yeah,
the first
I
play
mean
of the game.
the Steelers stunk worse than they did the week before. And to your point, they came out and gave up a big play right off the bat, and you know, I mean, they never recovered.
By the way,
Really.
where did you stand on the replay after you really looked at it again, the likely thing? Just where did you? Because people have asked me, I've been out
Yeah.
all week, and everywhere I've gone, people are like, "What did you think? What did you think?" I'm at yoga studio there.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think? And I'm like, um,
I,
you
I,
know, I to me, he didn't complete the catch. So like, it's one thing to break the plane of the goal line, running
yeah.
through where you got your half a foot over and the ball's over, right? Whatever. That's the rule for that. But you have possession when that's going on as well. If the ball was bobbled up at the goal line, you get likely last week because
Yeah.
there's no possession. Um, to me, he didn't. He if it was in the field of play, it would have been incomplete because he really didn't catch the ball. That's all. That's where I am on it.
Yeah. I kind of fall into the shrugging my shoulders about the fundamental question that has persisted now for going on 10 or 15
What
years
is a
of
catch?
what exactly is a catch. In the way they explain things, I'll put it this way. I can follow the rationale of how they are trying to explain it. But if I'm trying to talk in practical common sense terms, that felt like a touchdown. I will say this, and this is where it actually, for me, drew a little bit of a callback to the Lee Evans play, where I just feel like hold that football with a vice grip, like that it's like your child and someone's trying to pry it away from you. Like hold it like ironclad, like that no
Well,
one
but
can.
that's my point, Luke.
Yeah,
It's football. It's a
yeah,
reception. If you don't
and
catch it, you didn't catch it.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
That's why I'm not catch it three strips, get stripped.
yeah.
No, no, no. I mean, just like not a nanosecond, he did not catch the ball and pull the ball in and put his feet down. And that's not me being
Well,
referee speak.
well, he
I'm
did
just
he took two steps and
in the
and then it
same
was
way to
yeah.
me, the Aaron Rodgers play, his hands weren't on the ball.
Well, and that's why I said I can't reconcile
That
that
to
that
me
being a
wasn't
catch.
that wasn't
And and
a
and
catch.
that's where I
That
am.
should
Like
have
I
been
can't
possession
reconcile them.
Ravens.
I can't
Yeah.
reconcile those two. You know what I mean? Like those two calls being made, I can't reconcile that one is that way and the other one is that. So that said, I kind of chuckle when you ask me that, just because it's funny. We all ask, but does anyone actually change their opinion? No, everyone feels a certain way about it. You either thought it was a catch, and I think that's how most people outside of Pittsburgh felt. And in Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin, hey, good call, right? I mean, like so. But that said, I'll go back to they still had a chance to score a touchdown. I mean, they had 3rd and 2 a couple plays later, and they completely botched that. Didn't get it on 4th down. And as I said, that 2-minute drive was absolutely atrocious. Earlier in the fourth quarter, the Bateman drop on fourth down that would have been a first down and maybe a touchdown. I mean, so that's part of my problem with this team in terms of you've got to have, and they use this term. They talk about having a champion mindset, knowing that things are going to go wrong. You might have a turnover, you might have someone slip and bust a coverage. If someone drops a pass, you've got to put officiating calls into that same bucket of things that are going to go against you over the course of a game. And that's not to say that officiating shouldn't have accountability. Let me be clear on that. But in terms of how you're going to handle it as a football team and as a professional athlete, and they're lacking in that way for me. And that's just, and look, that's part of been what their downfall has been in January. But the problem is this year.
Would you say, going back to our baseball, that it's their makeup?
Sure. And look, that's not to, doesn't mean they stink. It doesn't mean that they're not professionals or in many cases, great football players. I mean, you're talking about a 2-time MVP. You're talking about guys that have been all pros.
But running a 2-minute drill under duress, it's not what he does.
It's a bad look for everyone. For an 8th-year quarterback and for a 3rd-year offensive coordinator and for an offense that was completely healthy, save for Justice Hill, knowing that in a 2-minute, Justice Hill would have been out there because he'd be the guy that's, playing running back in that situation.
But Ali's going to take those snaps, right?
But the point is that operation entirely, man, that was so below the bar, and that's everyone's fault. So, but my point with that is, those are the situations that I just don't see them handle well enough, and that's what's disappointing. And that's what's been disappointing in January, in these losses in January. Where,
well, if you don't have makeup, it means you don't have leadership. If you don't have leadership, it doesn't mean you don't have coaching, right? So, like, I'm extrapolating where it is and it's going to come back to when Bisciotti's watching that, he's going to say it's coaching, but I don't think he'll ever fire John. So I don't know. This last month of who's going to get blamed for what and who was injured and is it DeCosta's fault and why did they not have a pass rush and why did they do better things for Lamar and why did Lamar do better things with Lamar and how they're wasting Derrick Henry and they wasted D-Hop at this point in his career. Like, there's just a lot of dirt to kick on that grave if there is such a thing. I mean, especially when they're a 2.5-point favorite again this week. Everybody on TV after the game, they're going to make the playoffs. Well, like, I'm looking at the schedule saying, who's beating New England and Green Bay? How is this outfit doing that? Maybe one of them, but not both of them. And then going back to Pittsburgh, I don't know.
And that's where I kind of look at this and say, okay, even if you tell me each of these 4 games are a coin flip, which, I'll give you Cincinnati. Like, let's say Cincinnati, they have according to Vegas, let's say they puts them at like 53% or something.
Well, they're a 2.5-point favorites. So let's say they win by 2.5. Let's say they win by 3, and they won and they come home. Are they an underdog to the Patriots?
I mean,
no, they're a favorite because they're home.
I mean, maybe -1. Maybe.
So they're supposed to win.
I think
again.
That's close to.
People think they're going to win
close
again.
To a picket.
This is why people think they're going to be playing in January because you're making the case already before they go play, not making the case of I've seen them play the last 2 weeks, making more the case of they got unlucky and the refs screwed them.
But if the best case is a coin flip in each of those games, 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2 is their probability of winning out. Now they don't need to win out, obviously, but you start to look at that and say. It's probably 2 more losses there. Well, that puts them at 8-9. I mean, now maybe Pittsburgh's 8-9 too, and then we're talking about a tiebreaker scenario and a record against common opponents.
To your point, they better make sure this is one of the wins.
This has to be a win. Yeah. I mean, I'm ready to bury them if they lose Sunday. Yeah, I mean it's that simple. So now that said. You're gonna have to see who I pick because and look,
the NFL picked them and flex them into these games, thinking like this is gonna.
It's still Lamar. It's still a high-profile team. It's still a team that has a lot of stars. Look, there's a reason why when you drive down 695 and there's a fender bender on the shoulder, everyone slows down. So they want to. So there's even that element, and the same thing applies with Pittsburgh
Well,
right
New
now.
England needs to win to get a 1 seed. Green Bay's
Sure.
going to need to win the division. So, I mean, they're big games no matter what.
Yeah.
But and
Well,
the notion that the Ravens would find themselves on the other side of elimination at 6-8 by losing to Cincinnati would kind of screw that plan up a little bit. So,
and that's
keep the
where
faith, Luke. There's no reason to
yeah.
believe, so let's believe anyway.
And my last point, that's where, I talked about it a lot from the Ravens perspective. I am very interested to see what the Bengals, how they come out. How are they jazzed up with Burrow being at home for the
Or do
first
they think
time?
they're 4-9?
Or was last week Custer's last stand, and like they kind of go through the motions, and then because if that happens, then yeah, maybe the Ravens win by 17 points, and people are, I'm not ready to say Super Bowl back on at that point, but then yeah, you're feeling a little bit better about your chances against New England then. But I mean, you got to win. I mean, you lost back-to-back division games at home. Not much to feel good about when that happens, even if no, they weren't blowout scenario. At least Pittsburgh wasn't a blowout scenario, but my goodness, you got to go win a football game. Your season is on the line here, but could kind of sort of said the same thing last week, and we saw how that turned out. So
I wish
I'm
my
skeptical.
mom were alive this week. And damn referees, they screwed us. They screwed us.
Hey, you could say that too. I mean, that's fine, but
yeah.
They got to play better.
I miss my mom when the Ravens get screwed. Luke Jones is here. He is Baltimore Luke. We are doing the Maryland Crab Cake Tour at 6 places. I've got a big old Fadley's crab cake in my belly. I even stopped at Coco's on the way home because I'm not doing any tour stops there until the Cup of Super Bowl. So I brought home some coconut shrimp. I brought home a Greek salad. I ate some asado ribs, which were unbelievably good. There's 2 in the fridge right now. I may go have some. It's all brought to you by the Maryland Lottery, our friends at GBMC. I've been eating more since my colonoscopy. I can't explain it, but I'm just hungrier and healthier and happier, even if the Ravens aren't doing well. I've been studying up on AI, having some fun. Bill Cole's going to join me next week and do all that. I've got great conversations from Deep Pasquale's. We're going to be at Honey's in Halethorpe with a lot of Baltimore County electeds. My dear friend Sean Stinnett's coming by on Friday as well, who is now going to be not elected, former WNST intern, Sean Stinnett, delegate. But he's actually running. He was appointed. So he'll be with me on Friday. Next week, Thursday, Costas, Dundalk, Planet Fitness, Timonium on the 22nd. And then on the 19th, we're going to be at Gertrude's with cousin John Shields, Chef John Shields. Somehow my kid married into his family. So he's my cousin, and I'm bringing the eggnog. He's bringing the gingerbread. I'm going to bring the candy cane scented tickets. So we're going to have a holiday hootenanny over at the BMA at Gertrude's next Friday, and Dan Roderick's going to be there preaching the Feast of the Seven Fishes for me. I'm just hoping that the Ravens aren't swimming with the fishes there in the Ohio River outside of Cincinnati. Football. It's a long season, twists and turns. Luke's this close to giving up on him, but not me. I'm in on him this week. We're Baltimore positive. Stay with us.